podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Paul, so were you excited about the Premier League TV deal?
So it was only when we were just discussing the show 10 minutes ago that you said we should talk about the new Premier League TV deal. I did not know that had happened. What's happened?
Well, the very, very short story is they just sold the Premier League TV rights again for a spunk load of cash.
So more?
Well,
Another?
Actually, it's interesting because there are a few different ways to look at it. I think the main narrative that's been played out in some of the press is, bubbles burst, but it's not really true. And I think everyone was kind of looking for that story. So basically, they'd cut the packages into seven blocks. There's slightly more games on offer this time round, and slightly weird sets of packages, some of them anyway. 5 of the 7 blocks were sold for about £4.5 billion. This is for seasons 18, 19, 19, 20 and 2021.
Right.
So we've got a little time to go on the current deal first. And the other 2 packages will get sold. They're just, I think they're negotiating with parties how they'll be sold. So they can be sold as blocks on midweek blocks, simulcast, and on some bank holidays and stuff like that. Or they can actually be split up, so it's like 40 games or so, and potentially near live and bite-sized content packages and stuff like that. Anyway, I think they're hoping to entice Amazon into it. So I think the total deal in the end will be 150 million short of the previous deal over 3 years. I think everyone thinks this is just domestic rights. Right. Everyone thinks that international rights will grow. So basically, it's a flat domestic market. BT and Sky have said enough's enough. We're not paying more anymore. And cause, they've been using it as a kind of proxy war for selling broadband services. But the international market is far from mature, and I think in the end they'll probably get a total deal that's more than the current one, although not massively more. There you go.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to think that if it had grown at the kind of rate it's been growing between deals recently, again, then you'd be thinking this is an unsustainable bubble.
Right,
for sure,
70%
right?
each TV deal the last 2 times around. So, yeah. I mean, look, they'll sell for what they sell. I mean, certainly the Premier League has enjoyed the fruits of competition for sort of triple play and quad play customers in the UK.
What does that mean?
That selling broadband TV packages, phone line and mobile.
Right.
Or sometimes dropping the mobile for triple play. So, and there's been hot competition between Sky and BT, and I think, not suggesting they've colluded in any way, but I think they've both decided that enough was enough on that one. And the huge bonus from Silicon Valley hasn't come yet.
What is really remarkable about all this is how appallingly it serves the consumer. I think we've maybe have mentioned this on the podcast before, but there was a time when there was a monopoly on Premier League coverage in the UK, live Premier League coverage in the UK, and it was all owned by Sky, and the Monopolies and Mergers Commission decided that this was bad because...
Well, it's actually the European Commission.
Oh, there we go. The European Commission it was that split it up so that they forced it to be sold in multiple packages to different broadcasters, which meant...
The premise being that there'd be more competition, but actually, consumers end up paying 2 or 3 subscriptions.
Yeah, which is really dreadful, and... They also can't watch any games that are broadcast at 3:00 on a Saturday, which just means that the big clubs never play at 3:00 on a Saturday, essentially, or very rarely. But of course, United did a couple of weeks ago, and they got a win over Huddersfield. But then it was a Sunday game a very Sky Sports time of like 2:15 on a Sunday or something. And United travelled to St James's Park, and it was really, I suppose a lot of the television watching audience would have enjoyed it greatly, but not those of a Manchester United persuasion, because that was a hot mess.
At Newcastle? Yeah, properly sticky hot mess. Really deeply unpleasant as an away performance. To follow up on the away performance at Spurs, this was really bad. United hardly created a decent chance.
Well,
and
I think that's a. I know what you mean when you say that, but we talk about XG quite a lot on this show. The XG heavily weighted in United's favour between the Martial one-on-one with the keeper, the two shots that Martial had clear on the line, and the one where Sanchez was through on goal and delayed his shot. Those were all really big chances, weren't they?
Yeah, the Martial one-on-one was definitely a very big chance, and some smart keeping from a guy who's just been plucked on loan from where? Hungary or something like that?
I think I would know if it was Hungary, but let me just double check that.
Eastern Europe, somewhere.
Slovakia. Martin Dubravka.
It's over there somewhere. Yeah. I know the difference between Slovakia and Hungary before you write to me.
Ferenc Puskás was Slovakian, right? That's
right. Yeah. You're right. Martial, good chance. A couple of others. But just something desperately messy about the whole United performance. And this is the game that seemed to, after the Spurs game, seemed to really bring the Pogba-Mourinho thing to a head. I mean, Pogba hauled off after an hour or so, and questions beforehand about how fit he was, how intense he was playing. Another poor performance from him. A lot of debate after the game about whether Mourinho really should be playing him as a defensive midfielder, given that United spent £90 million on a world-class creative player. An argument that Mourinho seems to deeply distrust and reject, and no one else. But there you go. So, yeah, Messi, Lingard at number 10, really didn't see him at all. Lukaku up front, struggled.
Actually, thought Lukaku had a pretty good game, holding the ball up and feeding it to Sanchez a few times. I think Lukaku maybe put the ball through as well for Martial, maybe, if I'm not remembering that wrong.
Didn't score though, did he? Which is an important facet.
Did he have a shot? There was a couple where.
Did he have a shot?
Yeah, he had that one where he scuffed a kind of half chance that went out. Maybe even went out for a throw in. To be honest, he really air shot one. But basically, he had an incredibly thankless task and did almost everything that was asked of him. I thought in that game. I think of all the players to single out for criticism, he's basically immune from it.
So I think the thing that really came to a head after the Newcastle game was Mourinho's use of players in certain positions. You know, Sanchez is he's going to be United's left-sided attacker, isn't he? Which means that Rashford and Martial aren't getting a look in there. They had been job sharing, so Mourinho's swapped. Using two great players in one position for now three great players in one position. Martial's over on the right. It really doesn't suit him, does it? Has he ever had a good game on the right? I may have a short memory here, but I don't remember. It's for someone I think probably much prefers playing up front. But at least when he comes in off the left, he can play like an inside left and cut in and attack. From the right, that just doesn't quite happen. So Mourinho's got some thinking to do about the balance there.
Well,
and in midfield,
you say
well, quite clearly there's been briefing and counter-briefing between the Mourinho one.
You say...
Not that Mourinho's been briefing, he's been telling everyone Pogba needs to be playing, doing more defensively. And Pogba's people have told Big Dunk that he's not very happy and doesn't think he should be playing in a defensive role.
I mean, you say Mourinho's got some thinking to do about the balance. Does Mourinho seem at all interested in thinking about how to make United better? Is he not just going, just going to keep buying really expensive players and hope they sort it out between them. The Pogba thing, he played really poorly. He came off in the warm-up. Before he didn't finish the warm-up for the game against Newcastle, then really looked laboured and struggled, came off after an hour, clearly carrying some sort of knock or injury. Mourinho was asked in the post-match press conference, is he injured, and said no, which is just, oh my gosh. Like, we could all see he wasn't able to move freely. He came off during the warm-up and he took him off for Scott McTominay after an hour. Or was it Carrick that came on? I don't know. Either way, it might have been...
Yeah, I think McTominay came on about 10 minutes later.
It was Carrick. Yeah. Carrick he brought on for, which is fine. Like, nothing wrong with having Carrick on the pitch, but just the shocking stupidity of going to war with Pogba, it's just... why has he got to be like this?
I mean, look, as you know, there's a clique of the Manchester United supporter base who, like other managers before him, see Mourinho as being able to do no wrong here, and so the narrative there basically goes, well, Pogba should do what his manager tells him. If he's being sniffy about it, we don't need him at the club, which is utter nonsense because, of course, a manager's job is to get the best out of his players. And you don't ruin your very best player by asking him to play in a central two in midfield and defend.
While simultaneously...
And which is, like, you've just made the point by bringing McTominay on, and Carrick on for him, because that's the kind of player he wanted in that game.
Then he ruins his second best outfield player by buying a marginally better player and playing him in the same position and like... reducing Martial's effectiveness by a huge percentage. Mourinho's screwing up at the moment. Like, maybe he'll get it together. Maybe it's part of a grand plan, or maybe he's in a bit of a lull and he'll get it together. But he's dropping the ball. Like, if you asked me who would I rather won the war between Mourinho and Pogba for the sake of United's future in the next sort of 2 or 3 years, it's easily Pogba. It's not even close.
No, I mean, if it is, less hyperbolic, but if it was a case, well, more hyperbolic, sorry, but if it was a case of Mourinho versus Pogba, one stays and one goes, it's Pogba for me every single time. I'm not even going to, my heart isn't going to beat twice before I make that decision. It's easy.
No, yeah.
It's so easy. You've got a world-class midfielder who is being restricted by a system that doesn't make any sense for the type of players United have got at the club. If Mourinho wants 2 defensive midfielders in there, he can have 2 defensive midfielders. He just needs to play Pogba as well as those 2 defensive midfielders. And
then we say, what is Mourinho getting out of this war? Apart from power, what is he getting on the pitch out of insisting Pogba plays a more defensive role? Like, say we could all agree that maybe Pogba needs to just give a little bit more when he's fed up. Like, maybe we could all agree that for the sake of professionalism, the money's on, etc., maybe Pogba give a little bit more when he's fed up. But regardless of any of that, the thing that Mourinho wants is rubbish. Like, that's the thing at the moment. The system that Mourinho seems to want, like, if you think about the early games of the season where United were, 4-0 FC, in effect, Pogba was playing in a 2 for most of that. Matic was holding. There were lots of games against smaller sides where this is not a problem. Matic holds, Pogba goes. This is, that's the thing. Even then, though, Mark Hughes said, when we drew 2-2 with Stoke, Mark Hughes said that, Pogba was drawn to the ball too much, and that was something they consciously exploited in order to help get that draw. But anyway, the whole thing is, Pogba was kind of unleashed for a lot of the early part of this season, and that was the best football that United played. Whenever we looked in trouble, whenever we were struggling to break down teams, Pogba was so often the one who came up with the moment of magic. And a team with Pogba, Martial, Lukaku, Sanchez, Rashford, Mata in it. Like, you've got to get a balance right between those players, which is no mean feat. But then you could say, well, anyway, you've got to get the balance right between all those players. But trying to shackle Pogba into a midfield two, it's just pointless. It's pointless.
Well, he had one touch in the Newcastle box. And, and he's, you wouldn't expect him to have 20. Of course, he's not the forward, but once. And that's just not enough. He's United's principal creative player coming from midfield, and I think on the balance of all the arguments, one being free Pogba up to give his absolute best for United, because when Pogba plays well, United play well, versus the player should just do what he's told because the manager said so. I think it's weighted heavily in the former on this one,
Yeah.
And unless Mourinho wants to buy other players to play this 4-2-3-1 system that he really wants, and do that, he's just not going to get the best out of this group. It's obvious he can play Matic and Herrera or another, or McTominay if he prefers McTominay, and Pogba, free Pogba up, and play Sanchez and Martial. Or Rashford and Lukaku, right? He's going to sacrifice Lingard, but that's in order to get the best out of Pogba. I think that's a fair trade.
In talking of dishonest things, fundamentally dishonest things that Mourinho said after that game, he said Newcastle had come to get a point when they'd basically attacked from the word go, and in spite of getting a lead, was it early in the second half, was it, where the goal went in? Yeah, sort of midway through the second half they scored. Still had only 3 fewer shots than United, so I'm not sure it really stacks up that they were there to get a point.
No, they didn't have a lot of possession.
No,
but that's how Newcastle have played in a few big games this season. That's how United have played in a few games this season as well. So Mourinho definitely can't complain about that one. Newcastle broke when they needed to, used set pieces well, got the goal and didn't concede. Perfect game plan for them.
Not particularly nice thing to have to say, but I thought that Jonjo Shelvey played very well for them in that game. He was fairly dominant in midfield, although he had a fairly easy ride given the kind of shambolic nature of United's midfield at that point.
Yeah, well, that was good. So I guess we went from that hot mess to an away game at Huddersfield. The last time we went to Huddersfield,
after a hot mess of an away performance,
this was better. This was United just playing counter-attack football. I mean, didn't create a lot of chances at all. 5, in fact, and scored twice. 19 shots from Huddersfield. So they set themselves up to play on the counter. Conceded a lot of possession. Deliberately so, and ended up, coming away with what felt like a comfortable win because it was a Mourinho-esque performance. That's the Manchester United he wants. He wants a counter-punching side, and he got it against Huddersfield.
Well, the thing is, this was such a weird game because it was very clear that the lineup was going to have 2 major problems. One, an absolutely chronic lack of width, because the only wide players in the whole team were the fullbacks. Sanchez on the left, Mata on the right. But then a midfield 3 of McTominay, Carrick and Matic would also mean there would be an enormous gap between midfield and attack.
Mourinho's explanation was just hilarious because, he played 4-3-3, right, which is the thing that everyone's been calling out for. And Pogba was ill during the week, so not able to play. And he said, Pogba would have played on the left side of a midfield 3. But the doctor told me he couldn't, so I forgot about him. And I asked Matic to play there, and he doesn't really want to. Actually, Matic had a very good game playing on the left side of that midfield 3, I thought. As did Shaw, actually, at left back. I thought he was very busy, which, of course, means he gets dropped for the midweek game against Sevilla because he's not allowed to have a good game, Luke Shaw.
I mean, I thought actually... I thought he was busy and he did a lot, but I'm not sure I would describe that as a particularly great performance. I thought he did lose his man a few times, and I mean, he was under a lot of pressure, and Alexis kept kind of calling to get people to press a bit higher up the pitch, and I think Shaw was caught in 2 minds a lot because Huddersfield were really kind of pushing especially in the first half after the goal, they were pushing their right-sided attacker right up onshore. But of course, the game was shaped by Romelu Lukaku, who was, just completely magnificent. Both of his goals, genuinely superb strikers' goals, I thought.
Yeah, the first one managed to switch inside. I thought he'd taken it too wide. I thought he had missed his chance, really, especially since the sort of close control isn't necessarily his biggest strength. But he turned the defender beautifully and slotted home. Fine goal. And then the second one was just a lightning quick break. United were slightly fortunate because they had all 11 men back, and typically it's a bit hard to break like that when you've got all 11 men back. But the ball got to Alexis and he just found an absolutely wonderful pass to set Lukaku off.
The nice thing about it is it's not just like the ball got to Alexis, but Lukaku gave the ball to Alexis and then carried on his run. So he did brilliantly to pick out Alexis. Alexis's pass was perfect, and Lukaku held off two men and steered a brilliant finish home. Now, one of the things that I thought was both of his finishes went to the same side of the keeper, including that first one, which was at an odd angle. And given that the one thing that we know about Lukaku is that he's extremely studious, I wonder whether he'd seen a weakness in that keeper's diving to that side and deliberately. Either one, he could have gone the other way, although the second one, it was kind of natural to put it in that side. But the first one, it was quite an unnatural move to put it in that side. It was interesting, I thought.
Yeah, it's interesting that Mourinho experimented with that 4-3-3. So United got a couple of lost two times. So away at Huddersfield now, where we'd lost before, and away at Everton, where United were really good, and Pogba possibly his best performance of the season. Each time it's paid off, hasn't it? The risk with their 4-3-3 is, United have got the perfect forwards for it because they've got kind of sort of outside-inside forwards in Rashford, Martial, Sanchez and Mata. Everyone's going to be comfortable there, and a focal point in Lukaku. The risk is that fullback's hardly United's strength. Theoretically, young Valencia, Shaw can all play that sort of attacking fullback role, which is what you really need in that system. Although, that's theoretically. I'm not sure they have all put in those kind of performances this season.
No. I think the result and the fact that Lukaku scored early could easily... what United had put on their own Twitter account was deservedly through to the next round. And I think on the balance of the total performance, that's probably fair. We were, I thought, pretty good in the second half. Controlled the game really nicely, but in the first half we were just shambolic. And if we didn't have that
second half
lead,
was very controlled. Yeah, first half was a mess. Yeah. Obviously got the goal early.
Yeah.
But Huddersfield created a lot of chances in that first half.
Now, one of the things that we've always sort of done on this show, and it's not like we did it even on purpose. I think it's just that you and I both agree that the way coverage of games is generally covered on television and even in print is very frustrating because referees' decisions get an inordinate amount of attention, particularly on television punditry. So we try to, generally speaking, we'll touch on it, but it's never going to be the focus of our coverage of a game. But of course, this game was historic in a United context because it's the first time VAR has been used in a Man United game, and wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't even know if we've ever really had a serious conversation about the pros and cons of the concept in general, but this was shocking execution.
Conceptually, I'm well in favour. It works very well in, say, cricket and tennis, which I watch a lot of. But for different reasons, in tennis you have a whole bunch of static cameras, and because of the nature of tennis and because of the nature of the static camera, you can get millimetre accuracy on a ball going 150 miles an hour, right? And in cricket, there's only two variables, the man and the wickets and the ball. So 3 variables. So much, much easier. In football, I'm not convinced that it is that easy. They don't have the camera set up to do it. So basically, it's an actual human referee reviewing about 4 angles on any incident. I don't think in this case he had a camera right in line. So the camera's forward of Mata, everyone seems to think, oh, it's the right call because the line, when they've actually got a straight line on the TV, because first one was clearly drawn by a 4-year-old, shows Mata's knees about 2 inches off or something like that. And maybe it was. I'm not trying to make a kind of partisan point about we were robbed or something like that. But I think it's very, very hard, even with those replay cameras, when you're having to deal with perspective and the parallax to actually make that call. So you have to make sure, because I've watched this, the frame before, Matt is clearly on and Young's foot is on the ball. The frame that is shown for the line, Mata is, a couple of inches off? I mean, the ball is just being delivered.
Centimetres.
And the frame afterwards, when the ball is 5 meters off Young's foot, Mata is clearly onside as well. So it's not clear to me that was definitely the right decision after reviewing it over and over again. Now, the assistant's got more angles. Maybe there's another angle that's clearer, but it's not been shown to anyone, which is part of the problem as well in terms of trust. And then the big thing is this is supposed to be a clear error. So why is it being referred? And I don't think any of that situation helps football at all in the way it's being implemented.
It's such a strange one, isn't it? Because first of all, it was just a catalogue of errors. I think this was broadcast. The same pictures are broadcast everywhere in the world, aren't they? The domestic broadcaster broadcast the same images everywhere. So everyone that's seen this game everywhere in the world would have seen a replay with the crazy wobbly lines on it.
Yes, because I had a Russian feed on.
Right, okay. So there you go. And that immediately makes the whole thing seem like a complete, like a comedy of errors. Although, of course, that's just presentation. That's just ultimately, it's just a distraction. That was an error in the feed that was relayed to the broadcasters, apparently, rather than an error that was experienced in the referee's hut in Heathrow Airport. Which, it's not in Heathrow Airport. It's just in Heathrow.
And that's fine. It's just people lose confidence when that kind of thing happens, and confidence is really important for this to work. And I'm a techno optimist, so I think in the end they'll get this right, and it'll benefit the game. I just think in areas that offside is yes, no, it is binary. But unless you can make a for certain binary decision, if it's still a human looking at it, trying to make a judgment in something like that, where they're having to adjust for perspective, which I can do on the computer, right? I can adjust it and it doesn't look offside. So then I'm not sure we're getting anywhere, right? We're stopping the game for 2 minutes. What did Wenger say? Ruining the emotion.
And the thing about this decision, okay, so this is a United goal. It's a Juan Mata goal. Obviously, I can't discuss this in any way and be considered truly impartial. But if this goal had gone against United, I think I would still feel the same way as this. Surely these are not the decisions which need to be got right in inverted commas, because as they said on Match of the Day after the game, where both of the pundits, I have to say, were sort of just very much banging the drum of it was the right decision in the end. But Gabby Logan put it to them that there's no way, if they'd watched that after the game, they'd have been saying good decision, linesman, right? That's what you saw in real time. Like, I didn't, when all the weight was going on, I wasn't even that nervous, because I was just like, no, this is a goal. Obviously it's a goal. We've all seen that replay. There's no way they're going to give that off from a VAR thing. Then there's the question about the process. So first of all, there's that. There's like, well, that might seem weird because, like you say, offside is binary, but surely like an attacker's knee being a millimetre offside while they're running surely that is not the decision we're trying to get right. Like you said, it's supposed to be a clear decision. And this was not a decision that apparently either the linesman or the referee referred to VAR. This was something that VAR flagged up from their end to say, we want to have a look at this. This might be a decision we want to have a look at, which is, it's just... It's ridiculous that should happen on a decision.
Which is not the protocol that's been agreed. So, this isn't written into the rules anywhere. So this is just what they've agreed. But clearly that is a VAR referee wanting to get his hand in the pie there, you know?
I mean, my understanding was that the protocol was that they would refer it, or that the VAR referee could attract the referee's attention to something that he might have missed. That was my understanding, because otherwise there are lots and lots of types of decisions where the VAR could make a big difference, like a big off the ball foul or something that the referee was paying no attention to, you know. So that was my understanding, but
clear error.
This was
in the briefing.
Yeah,
is what it said.
So there was so much wasted time, wasted emotion. This is really like, you know, when you watch NFL and every touchdown's reviewed. So the kind of like, they celebrate touchdowns when they get them, and then there's a review every time, and it's like, I don't want to be a Luddite. I don't want to be a technophobe. I do think surely we can use all the technology and coverage of these games to improve the quality of refereeing, but the current implementation is just horrible for football. And Greg Johnson, the managing editor of Football.London, said like VAR is a brilliant example of football self-importance. Like it treats itself like every decision has to be perfect, you know, whereas actually it's been an imperfect, muddy mess for 150 years, and why don't we just kind of let it carry on? And I don't have that extreme a view of it, but I do think the current implementation is just, I mean, it's not even like teething errors at this point, is it? Because it's been in use for 2/3 of a season in major leagues around Europe, you know.
Yes, and the same types of controversies are you know, and debates are being had. I don't think it's, you know, look, when it came into tennis, when the Hawkeye system came into tennis, and I think it's Hawkeye that's actually running this, it's just a very different style of implementation. When it came into tennis, the players didn't like it. Now, no one will argue with it. No one. Everyone has total faith in the system. But as I said, it's 6 or 7 static cameras.
Yeah, exactly.
On a
fixed
perspective, a very, very small area that it needs to cover.
And there's no, you know, all the perspective can be adjusted for it ahead of time and all that kind of stuff, because the angles don't change. But in football, the exact point at which the ball will have been played from and to will mean that the cameras will always be in different places, and unless you're doing kind of bullet time cameras around the whole width of stadiums, which, by the way, that could be super cool, but you know.
Yeah, anyway, don't like the implementation as it is, but I have faith at some point though. Well, I have faith in technology. Not sure I have faith in the FA. To get anything right. By the way, the FA this week signed a deal with the Qatari FA. Apparently, information sharing it was. This is the same Qataris that the FA made a huge fuss about when they won the World Cup. I presume the FA, the English FA, that is, will be in big fans of the 2022 World Cup in the middle of winter now. Shows what money will do for you, hey?
Yeah. Money will get you through the 5th round of the FA Cup into the quarterfinals. Home draw against Brighton and Hove Albion. Good news for United's money men. Bad news for season ticket holders, maybe, but good news in terms of chances of progression to Wembley, because it's not like a foregone conclusion by any means. There's no game at the moment that feels like a foregone conclusion, but that's a pretty favourable draw at this stage, isn't it?
Yes, at this stage, yeah. Although, given the way the other draws were made, quite likely that United will get one of City, Chelsea or Spurs in that semi.
Yes, but, you know.
Well, if Spurs get through their replay against Rochdale, of course.
They're making heavy weather of it. Newport replay, Rochdale replay.
I was on the motorway today, listening to the Spurs game. I have to say, the Rochdale fans, all 10,000 of them, made an excellent atmosphere, and they got their 94th minute equaliser, and I'm sure they enjoyed their moment.
Yeah, and they get to go to Wembley a round early, don't they? That's a couple of rounds early. Big things for Rochdale. I guess so. Brighton, and then one of the big boys in the semi-finals, and at that point go from being really fed up that José Mourinho is Man United manager to being like, oh yes, José Mourinho is Man United manager. He's quite good at getting past big teams in semi-finals, isn't he?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, look, the way United played at Huddersfield and generally in cup competitions is the Mourinho's preferred method style. If he has any kind of style, that's it. And it's good for cup competitions. It's kind of suited. The FA Cup is definitely United's best opportunity at getting silverware this year. So I hope we take it fairly seriously.
One last word on that Huddersfield game. A player that's come in for a phenomenal amount of criticism this season, and rightly so. Thought Big Mike Smalling had a good game. He's had a couple of decent games in amongst the absolute calamities.
Mike Smalling, the recorder.
The recorder? Yeah, I can't claim credit for this. I don't know where it comes from, but somebody described Chris Smalling as the flight recorder because he's always found where the wreckage is.
Cruel, but fair. Yeah. But fair. He had a decent game. And Lindelof didn't look too bad either. No. He was a total mess last time at Huddersfield. But
he was. Mourinho, making him get over the trauma of it. It's what's the word? Exposure therapy. And
that's right. Yeah, normally it's planes and spiders. But
exactly, but Huddersfield it is for Victor Lindelof. And talking of central defenders, very, very lovely to see in the 90-whateverth minute it was, Eric B. back. Eric B. is back.
And very nice to see. What's the over-under on him getting injured in the next 2 weeks or so?
You got there before I could say it's been a long time. He shouldn't have left us with Phil Jones to step to. Hopefully he gets a run because he is United's best centre-back by quite a long distance, isn't he?
He is, yeah. I mean, look, I'm guessing that midfield is going to be the priority in the summer. Obviously need a replacement for Fellaini, who seems to be off to Turkey. If reports are to be believed.
Fellaini has been off to Turkey for as long as I can remember. I will believe it when he's surrounded by thousands of people at an airport. That's the first time I'm going to believe it.
That's right. Well, let's assume he goes, and Herrera is stalling on a contract. Reports of interest from Milan. Carrick is retiring, and obviously Pogba's going to Real Madrid. So might need 3 or 4 midfielders in the summer.
Oh no, it's funny because it's painful. A word to mention the fact that Angel Gomez and Ethan Hamilton were on the bench. Hamilton apparently having impressed for the youth team and got his squad.
Yep.
Squad number.
He has done. Regular watchers of MUTV will know that he's been pretty good this season. Angel Gomez, we will have seen more of in the first team. And fully deserves to be in and around the squad. I think he's not actually played huge amounts for the reserve team. Not that the reserves actually play that many games either. But he's a big talent, and United feels like making a little point there. Managed to. Mourinho after the game said, yes, it's great for them even if they don't get to play. A little prod at Pep there for playing six reserves the other week. Oh, six on the bench. So. Yeah, good for them, and maybe we'll see them against Brighton as well.
So you say that midfield will be the priority in the summer. Will United have any money to spend? How's the financials looking?
Yes, well, is the answer. United should have plenty of money to spend because the club is in pretty good financial nick at the moment. So this is it's not an annual report, and I won't go into loads of length because there's really a very niche number of people who look forward to this. So it's second quarter. So don't read too much into the sort of headline stuff, but 160 odd million, 4% growth year on year compared to last year's second quarter. There's a bit of lumpiness there in the commercial income and the matchday income because it's quarter on quarter, so you can kind of ignore all of that. Guidance on revenue up to 575 to 585, so decent growth there. EBITDA, so that's cash before you take the tax off and any special deductions, and I'll talk about that in a bit, to about 185, so very strong balance sheet for United. So in other words, to very, very long-winded way of saying yes, lots of money in the bank. Should be able to spend big in the summer.
Any Rantcast listener that's been listening to for 5 years or more will now be taking a drink if they're playing the drinking game because you said EBITDA. That was a word that we used to hear a lot on this podcast, but we don't anymore.
That's right. Net debt that's total debt minus cash in the bank at touch over 325 million. Gross 500 odd. So plenty of debt, but it's the way the Glazers. It's not an existential threat anymore, given the size of United's EBITDA. So strong cash business United, so that they can carry the debt off, and the Glazers use it to defer tax, which is what I wanted to talk about next, because it's kind of interesting for nerds out there of the financial variety. So United took and I saw some really bad coverage of this. So as usual, when it comes to football finances, sports journalists not on their A game. So anyway, United had a deferred tax asset special adjustment of nearly £50 million. This time last year, United had about 140 million on the balance sheet as an asset. And this is the way it works, right? So when you lose money, as United have done a lot in recent years because of the massive debt, you can write that off against future tax. It's called and that's worth something. It's an asset on the balance sheet. It's called a deferred tax asset. And you got a very weird quirk happening because of the new Trump tax plan. And so United, of course, listed on the New York Stock Exchange, registered in Grand Cayman. Not a tax dodge at all. Because the Trump tax cut significantly reduced corporate tax rates in the US, United's deferred tax asset is actually worth less. So there's a £50 million pound adjustment on the balance sheet. It doesn't mean anything in terms of cash, but it's kind of one of those weird quirks. So in fact, although United will get more cash on the balance sheet later, right now they took a £50 million hit. So that asset on the balance sheet is worth quite a lot less, which was a kind of amusing quirk for people who like that kind of nerdy stuff.
Hilarious. That's amusing. Yes, no, because jolly good. Producer Tom had a wine and cheese party last week, and they could have had discussion about this kind of hilarious grown-up tax-based anecdotes.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, very strong position. Obviously pretty stable income out to 2021. The big variable there being how many games United play, so how successful United are, and whether United are in the Champions League.
Right.
But yeah, good position. Anyway, we've got plenty of Twitter questions because this week I actually bothered to ask people.
Nice, that's 2 weeks in a row, Ed. You're getting in the swing of it.
I know. I haven't actually set up the bot yet. I thought I should, but it's a good job I didn't actually, because it'd been quite weird if it said we're about to record our podcast
and then we
give us some questions, and yeah, we didn't.
Yeah, I just need to make it clear at this point, like, I'm never taking these over again. I've done them for however many years we've been doing the show. The next 8 or 9 years are yours, Ed, with Twitter questions. Sucks,
really.
Yeah.
Can I just give you my password and you can log in?
No, I'm not having anything to do with it. I'm free. I'm never going back. It's nice.
At _Taylor Ben says, who can draw a better straight line, VAR officials or Gareth Barry while driving a taxi steaming drone?
Oh, we haven't talked about this. Johnny Evans stole a taxi, Ed. I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know whether
he's got form, though. He's a bad boy. He drinks and he turns into a menace.
I don't know whether he's one of the top 5 central defenders in the world, but he was probably one of the top 5 central defenders in that taxi and at that moment.
You've got Gareth Barry, and Johnny Evans in there, who between them have played about 1,500 games. You'd think they might know better. Like, they asked the taxi driver to stop and help them get McDonald's or something like that at 3 a.m, and whilst he was helping them in McDonald's, the Japesters went and stole his taxi.
I mean,
lols.
Alan Pardew is acting like he's annoyed and disappointed about this, but he must be loving it behind the scenes. He's like, this is what it's...
Well, he was out till 5:30 in the morning, apparently.
This is what the game's all about, lads.
Wow. Anyway, questions. Has the arrival of Sanchez upset the balance, says at Drakishmish.
Yes. I mean, hopefully the answer is yes so far, but it'll be okay in the long run. Because I do think, there is a danger of drawing too many long-term conclusions from 5 games, because it could just be that he's playing Sanchez in the position he feels most comfortable while Sanchez is settling into the squad. I don't think that's what's happening, but it could be. But so far, it's pretty clear that Sanchez has upset the balance. But of course, the upside of that is a goal and an assist, and and a constant kind of threat. He's a quality player, but I mean, he's the kind of player we need in terms of his level of quality, but it's abundantly clear not in the position or style that we really needed.
Can you give us your quarterly breakdown on EW's conference call to NYC, says at Simon Stevens, or at Stephen Simons. I just thought I'd mention, because he asked during the week as well. So one of the very few friends of the podcast who is desperate to get the financial update. Everyone else goes and makes a cup of tea. I did that. There were a couple of other little tidbits around other than the finances. Sanchez is the biggest selling shirt of the year, or something like that.
That's kind of interesting.
Lots to talk about brand reach and all that kind of nonsense that everyone absolutely hates.
I mean, if he's talking about 2018, that's not a surprise. But if he's talking about the 17-18 season, I guess I'm maybe a little surprised that I guess Lukaku is probably the highest profile arrival in the summer, and you can easily understand why Sanchez's shirt would outsell Lukaku's. But
yeah, Simon also says, is Scott McTominay a bit or massively underrated, the next Darren Gibson or the next Darren Fletcher?
Yeah, it's really unclear to me, the answer to that question. I've been super impressed by, I sound like a broken record at this point, but I've been super impressed by McTominay's ability to look like he belongs in first team football, but
right,
that boy has never seen a backwards pass he didn't like. It's every
that's
time.
Right. Very, very, very conservative with the ball. He's got to do more to be a United player, and I think he's getting the sort of the benefit of the doubt, isn't he? Because it's his first season in and around the first team squad. Mourinho said that he nearly left, and who knows where he would have been playing. I think he was kind of intimating that he might have been playing in the Championship or something like that. He still might end up playing in the Championship. I think everyone's impressed with his composure, but that's not going to be enough once he's got 20 games under his belt, is it?
No, and it doesn't look like it doesn't look like some kind of major technical issue to fix or anything. It just looks like he's risk averse, which, a young player coming into a Mourinho side, the fact that he's risk averse isn't necessarily something that's indicative of his fundamental character or anything. You can easily imagine why he would be a little risk averse under those circumstances, but it is just very noticeable.
Yeah. At P. Padman says, question for Paul. Can Ataman Humber play in a two-man midfield?
Well,
I think we had that question last week about the central defence.
Yeah, right.
And clearly it wouldn't be a two-man midfield, would it?
No, but a two-dog midfield. I mean, listen, could it be worse than Pogba and Matic have been recently? I mean, the answer is yes. Atom and Humber, lovely dogs that they are, would be much worse as a two-man midfield than Pogba and Matic, who, for all their flaws, are elite-level professional midfielders and not dogs.
Why don't we have a working system after 18 months, says at Bad Boy Jave.
That's it. That's the whole question, isn't it? That's it. That's it. That's the big knock against Mourinho. You could list a bunch of stuff that's good about Mourinho's reign at United. Squad's in much better shape than it's been at any time since Fergie left. I think you could argue this is the best squad United have had since Ronaldo left, the summer Ronaldo and Tevez left. In fact, I don't really think you could make a particularly good argument the other way. It's pretty obvious, I think, that it's that level of talent. But it's a total... I mean, it's just a shout. I don't understand how Mourinho isn't waking up every day going, oh my goodness, what am I doing with this opportunity? Yeah.
Talking to Mourinho, Ziad at 7_EEAD asks, is Mourinho the manager next year if United fail to win anything this year? Probably, unless United finish 6th.
Yeah, I mean, well, gosh, if we finish below Arsenal, then yeah. It's like, I hate the idea that we would change our manager again this summer. Like, it's what's worse, isn't it? It's Mourinho's failings or the continued instability. Another manager comes in, wants his players. I mean, we are in a really dangerous cycle at that point, and unless we luck out and appoint a kind of visionary genius, who the fans and the board and the players will all give enough time and space to work their thing. I don't know. I'm very frustrated with Mourinho, but unlike, either Moyes or Van Gaal, I certainly wouldn't be celebrating if Mourinho got sacked.
Yeah. I mean, there's not, unless they had the word on the street that they were getting Poch or someone else. Although, it's not as if Spurs are pulling up. Spurs are fifth. And inconsistent in their performances, as you can attest, across Rochdale and Juve in the past week. So, it's not obvious that he's going to do a better job. It might be less maddening. And there is something in that. Anyway,
at this
Frank
point,
Groton. Go ahead.
Sorry, at this point, we could finish sixth and win nothing, or we could finish second and win the Champions League. There's a long way to go in this season, and neither of those are impossible outcomes by any means.
No, the Champions League, we're going to have to park some massive buses. But yeah, could happen. Frank Grotons, Frank_Grotons on Twitter says, since it's NBA All-Star weekend, what would a good slam dunk contest be? What would the equivalent be in football?
You could do sort of like freestyle competitions, like get Premier League footballers to kind of do the freestyle stuff that's so popular on YouTube and all that. I think that'd be the direct correlation to slam dunk contests.
It's all that stuff they have on the training grounds where they score Rabona and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
For Paul Scholes hitting Rio on the arse when he's taking a piss 60 yards away, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like crossbar challenge, things like that. That's all the kind of equivalents. There is no equivalent to a slam dunk in football. I think it'd be like blasted shots from 30 yards would be the kind of aesthetic equivalent, even though in basketball there are long shots. Long shots are kind of equivalent to like Cantona's goal against Sunderland. They're equivalent to a chip or a lob, whereas a slam dunk has that sort of visceral velocity that you associate with like a Yeboah off the bottom of the bar into the back of the net. Yeah.
Stupid game anyway. It's only good for the last 2 minutes. As I often remind people, including some extremely senior people at the NBA who I met in London recently.
I mean, you say you remind them, but like that would imply that they knew that thing which isn't true beforehand.
Well, then I've educated them in the futility of their sport. They did say I could go courtside at the Knicks next time in New York, so I'll obviously have to take them up on that.
I will be so cross the day that happens. Like, how out of the two of us do you get to do that first?
It's not what you like, it's who you know, apparently. We don't know too much about Sevilla because United have never played them before. Although, obviously, we know lots about Sevilla because we've researched hard, and United will be playing Sevilla on Wednesday.
So, Mohamed Butt, formerly of Squawka, currently features editor at Here in the City, long-time La Liga. I think he headed up Squawka's La Liga coverage before they all fell apart. Has sent me some interesting information about Sevilla. So, follow him on Twitter at Mohamed Butt. And this is what he has to say. He says, Sevilla are in superb form under their new boss Montella after basically stinking up the joint, yet inexplicably picking up points in the first half of the season.
That's right.
They're amazing at home. He says the Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan probably has one of the best atmospheres in Spain. I think if United go looking for a classic Mourinho 0-0, I can see Sevilla stepping up the tempo in the second half and getting a goal to win. But ultimately, they're weak on counters, and if United play to their talent level, then this should be a win. It's just whether Mourinho can get out of his own way. But United should have too much quality for Sevilla.
He can't. I mean, it's going to be Pogba versus Steven Nzonzi in central midfield if Pogba's illness is not so bad.
Yeah.
Be interesting, yeah. I mean, Sevilla that I saw, and given my work and family schedule this year, for the past year or so, has been pretty heavy. I haven't watched quite as much La Liga as I used to, but Sevilla I saw in the early part of the season were pretty crap.
Yeah.
But they have been moving up the table.
Now, fifth, just 3 points behind Real Madrid, who are
stinking up the show. Can we talk about how bad Madrid are this season instead?
Well, we could, although they have just beaten PSG 3-1 in what was an extraordinarily enjoyable, if fundamentally morally bankrupt game of football.
Yes, yeah. I wasn't quite sure who to support in that one, Franco's fascist lot or the Qatari soft PR stunt.
I mean,
the human rights abusers versus the ex-human rights abusers.
Sir El really terrible. But it was a heck of a game of football. Like, we cannot ignore the fact that those are two teams full of really good footballers. And Ronnie scored an absolutely blind. I mean, he was playing terribly, obviously. He scored a brilliant penalty and then one off his knee, which looked really spawny when you saw it in real time. And then when you see the replay, you realise, no, this is just that Ronaldo is now, as he has been for so many years now, just one of the best poachers in the game, because he absolutely tried to steer the ball towards goal with his knee out of pure instinct, and it worked,
Yeah. So anyway, back to Sevilla, who they've won 3 on the trot now, a Copa del Rey game, a couple in La Liga, and they're going to play this sort of 4-2-3-1 system. United will match up very well against them, and I'm going to expect the pattern of the game to be that United sit off and try and soak up pressure and try and do something akin to what the team just did at Huddersfield and play on the break.
I mean, they've clearly got a problem with scoring goals, haven't they? They've scored 31 goals, which I think only 4 teams have scored fewer goals than them in the Liga this season, but they just don't concede that many either. And apparently, like you said, and like Mo said, they've been doing much better recently. And this whole thing about like trying to predict this game, the extent to which this just seems to be about which United turn up, it can't be overstated, can it? Because is it going to be 4-0 FC, the swashbuckling goal-scoring threat that, and I don't mean like as in we're going to go there and try and batter them, but I just mean all those really quality attacking players we've got. Will we see anything like their potential in either of these legs? Or will the combination of the system and the atmosphere stifle them?
Yes.
So you think we're going to go out, do you, in this?
I look, all the free-flowing, attacking, dramatic football that we got in Real versus PSG, we're going to see none of it in the United game because, there's a phrase in American business, show me a throat to choke, right? This is exactly what Mourinho wants to do to Sevilla. He's going to try and kill this game off.
That's such a bad phrase. That phrase makes me really sad that people would think about the world like that.
Yeah. No, I have zero expectations for this game. It's away from home. I think Mourinho is going to try and kill it. It's going to be dirty. He might even revert to his. I call it 3 at the back, but really it's 7 at the back, isn't it? With 3, 2 deep full backs and 2 in front. He hasn't done that in a while, but I don't expect United to be too ambitious. I expect them to try and play on the counter. They have got players, look at the goals they scored against Huddersfield, have got players to play like that. And Alexis is a real bonus in that. Yeah,
I mean, it's a strange situation, isn't it? Because actually, since Anfield, we haven't parked the bus anywhere. We've just been incompetent, more or less. Like, there hasn't been a lineup that was super, super defensive. Maybe away at Stamford Bridge, but even that one, not really. There was just a lot of real incompetence in those big games. Like against Spurs the other week, there's no way you can look at that lineup and say United were there to park the bus. It was a very attacking lineup that got smashed open early and then just was dreadful. Yep. It's been a while since we've seen that heard that kind of sound of the bus backing up, that beep, beep, beep. We haven't heard that for a long time.
No, but I'm sure, even if that doesn't happen, United are going to start extremely cautiously in this game.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's just Mourinho's mentality. I mean, I guess there's some really big questions. Is Pogba fit enough? Where will he play? And who does he play in central defence? I'm guessing Bailly isn't fit or sharp enough to start, which means it's the Clamity brothers at the back.
Yeah, I can't even defend Phil Jones anymore. That's a shame because he was in maximum calamity mode against Spurs, wasn't he? Yeah, I don't know. You kind of want to see any partnership other than Jones and Smalling, really, don't you? Just because, I mean, if we look at a Smalling, Jones, Valencia, Young backline, then that's going to be proper head-in-hand stuff, isn't it? Can't really see them managing a European tie, particularly if the general tone of the team is conservative. That is a recipe for disaster.
It is. Anyway, that's Sevilla, and then Chelsea at the weekend at Old Trafford. Pretty odd Chelsea side over the last month or so, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
smashed Hull, smashed West Brom,
yeah.
Got absolutely battered by Watford, and obviously got the man sent off, but really deserved the loss. Got spanked at home against Bournemouth, and lost to Arsenal.
So in their last two games, a 7-0 on aggregate to Chelsea. The two games before that is a 7-1 loss on aggregate for Chelsea. So, I mean, as just said a second ago, like what United turns up, what Chelsea turns up, who can even begin to imagine? I mean, after the 3-0 loss to Bournemouth and the 4-1 to Watford, I had assumed that we would be seeing Roberto Di Matteo led Chelsea or something.
Temporary manager, yeah. Yeah, that's right. I mean, Conte's a dead man walking for sure, but maybe he'll hang on till the summer. They do play midweek. They play at home to Barcelona on Tuesday. I'm quite sure that Mourinho will make something about the extra 24 hours of rest. But it is a game against Barcelona. That's going to be pretty intense.
Now, maybe Mourinho will actually care enough about the game against Chelsea to design a tailor-made approach to this game, because it's not just the club that care whether we win or lose against Chelsea, but Mourinho himself will be personally invested in a way he apparently isn't in the rest of our performances in general. So maybe he'll get up in the morning and make himself a dossier for this one, and we'll see a kind of custom-built formation like we did at home last season against Chelsea. I mean, this Chelsea side is obviously eminently stoppable at the moment. They've been all over the shop in terms of form. Weird decision. I mean, Conte's relationship with Michy Batshuayi is the kind of thing that would be driving us mad, no doubt, if we were unfortunate enough to be Chelsea fans. But they brought in Giroud. I guess Morata will play, and has he been scoring the goals in these last couple of games? I've not really been paying too much attention.
No, not really.
Right.
I mean, Giroud's got a couple. Morata's got 10 in the league this season.
Wait, is that fewer than
he obviously
Lukaku?
had an injury as well, so he's missed some time.
Right.
So actually, it's a quirk of the way it's worked out, but Lukaku has more goals than Morata and Lacazette put together. He's played more games.
Yes.
But,
Yes, I'm so happy with that fact, even though it doesn't mean anything really. But still, the relative coverage over Morata and Lukaku was very frustrating in the summer. So I'm happy to see that Lukaku's got the edge in that one.
Yeah, I mean, all the same ingredients are there for Chelsea. For them to be a strong side. Clearly, they haven't been as strong this season as last season. They've made quite a few changes at the back. Christensen and Rudiger have played quite a bit recently. Two young players who, I guess weren't Conte's first choice. Probably weren't his choice at all. But, they're still strong in midfield. And Pedro and Hazard, they've got plenty of goals there, even if, Morata doesn't get them. And, and Giroud, I think, even with his age and even being, £18 million or so, was a pretty fine acquisition, given that they almost bought Peter Crouch instead.
Yeah, but I mean, who would you rather have, Michy or Giroud?
No, you'd have Giroud any day at the moment. I mean,
then Batshuayi.
Michy hasn't played for 2 years, has he?
Well, no, but he scores goals every time he's played. And he's gone to Dortmund, and I think, I don't know exact stat, but it was something like Dortmund have scored 7 goals since Michy was there. He's done the pass before the assist for 2 of them, 1 assist and scored 5, I think. So that's 8 goals anyway. So he's like absolutely flying. I'd have Batshuayi myself.
There are some stats people out there who count pre-assists. I'm not there.
No, but he's clearly involved in the build-up, isn't he, at that point? Anyway, Batshuayi versus Giroud is not our problem, fortunately. Giroud might be our problem, but I feel like, you can just stick Mike Smalling on Giroud, can't you? And that'll be mostly okay.
Yeah, it's not the kind of nimble technical forward that Smalling and the other Chuckle brother struggle with.
So
launch it at him and he's all right.
It's so upsetting, Ed. I'm so upset. My agenda's ruined. They're both terrible. No, I still think there's a player in both of them sometimes, but it's just there's also the opposite so often, isn't there? Not even so often, just too often,
Right. Too often for the level United want to be at.
So we're predicting 2 wins there.
And that's right. No, I'm not. Let's be positive about Sevilla and say it goes exactly how Mourinho wants it to go, so 0-0. Why not? You can pull off a bespoke tactical system for the game against Chelsea. You may even go with a 4-3-3 there because you'd outnumber Chelsea in central midfield and push 2 guys wide against their three-man backline. So possible. And so let's say 1-0 against Chelsea.
I don't know. I have to, right? This is the contract of the Rantcast. We have to predict results. Because honestly, I feel like I've got absolutely no idea what's going to happen. The Sevilla game, I feel like I've got no idea because I don't know how they match up to United, really. So I'm just kind of plucking numbers out of the air based on what everyone said. I'm going to go with a 1-0 win to us. There you go. Counter-attacking goal from Anthony Martial. The kind that I see in my dreams. And then Chelsea versus United, which lumbering mess of a manager does a better job in this one? Which one of them wakes themselves up from their weird self-imposed slumber and actually brings their undoubtedly high levels of talent to bear on the outcome of this game? 0-0.
Who's going to win the verbals before the game?
0-0 draw. Mourinho wins the verbals every time. He's in a different... Conte can't touch him for verbals. Mourinho's a stone-cold verbal assassin because he's prepared to completely ignore the truth, except when it is an incredibly painful truth, in which case he's fully prepared to exploit it.
No, that's right. And, he was masterful in the last spat.
Yeah.
Positive, bang! Ruin the guy, and I think it could well have done. I'm sure Conte spends every morning checking that his hairline's okay.
League Cup, and so in this order: Community Shield, verbals with Conte, League Cup, Europa League. That's Mourinho's best achievements at United so far.
Very good. Well, our achievement is to record over an hour of this podcast nonsense this week.
Yep.
Including, for your enjoyment, Twitter questions. You see that, Paul?
Yeah, well done.
Asked.
It's good work.
Yeah, it's good work. The boring bit about financial stuff.
That was great.
Football.
Yeah, I really enjoyed all that. And I have to say, it's the toss-up between which is more boring at the moment, talking about the football or talking about the money. It's close. So if you've got this far into the show, well done. And thank you for listening, as always. I hope you've enjoyed our slightly more miserablest than usual nonsense. And we'll be back with another one of these after a glorious week where Mourinho proves that his haters with an 8 and a Z are all wrong and he still fully got it, and anyone that says he didn't is a great big treacherous idiot.
It's going to be funny when United lose twice, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. All right, see you next week. Either way, we'll be here to dissect it all. The Rantcast is brought to you ad-free because we are lucky enough to be supported by people who back us over at patreon.com/rankcast. And if you pay more than $5 plus VAT per month, you'll get access to a little bonus at the end of every week. This week, me and Ed talked about the Winter Olympics.
How normal humanity is. So, stick some dude who'd run 20 seconds in the 100 and you go, oh, wow, that person who was last is absolutely amazing. But in the winter sports, they die at all of them, even the curling.
They just break their foot and run over their foot on a ski.
By the way, we didn't talk about with the curling, three moments of massive controversy. One, cheating, where both sides, I can't remember, was it Sweden?
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.